to episode 3 of Here for the Dads podcast. This thing is really rolling. I'm enjoying this time. We're just sitting here talking about how therapeutic this whole thing was. But the guest I have with me today is Godkin. That's how I know him. I know him by his last name. He can give you a little bit more of his intro, but he's an intel officer, and he's a great dad, great husband. I mean, you might as well just go ahead and take away. Just let them know a little bit about yourself, what you got going on.
All right, yeah, cool. Meyer, thanks for having me, bro. I really appreciate it. We've known each other since I was a youngster when Meyer rolled up to the academy. So I also went to Naps. I don't know if you went to Naps.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Naps, yeah. So kind of have the same upbringing to the academy, to the Navy community. But yeah, Dan Godkin, known as Godkin around most of the brotherhood. I got a wife, 2 kids, got married the day after graduation.
Hey,
so
man, that's
literally, graduated the next day, boom, there we were, walking down the aisle, 1,500, 30 minutes in and out.
Jeez.
Had my first kid in 2017, so 2 years later, and then just had my second one in 2020, COVID baby, and yeah, here we are.
There's something about them COVID babies, dog. No, they different. What are their names? How old are they?
So Abraham is 5, and then John is 2.
So Abe and John.
Yeah, Abe and John.
Kids, bro.
Yeah.
Your kids are like right around the same age as mine, so it's always good.
Yep.
We talk about me, you and Fer just kind of getting together. Whenever he gets back down from Rhode Island, we'll all get together, get the kids together, and stuff like that. Absolutely. I think it was a dream earlier while we were playing football. I was like, hey, man, when we're done, we're all going to get together. Like, the brotherhood's going to be strong. And then we all just, like, split up and did life stuff. And then kids just started coming. And now it's like, hey, brother, we got to get together, get our kids together.
7, 8 years later, we're like, man, where's the time going? We're dads. It is crazy. Yeah, you're right, man. Graduated, and boom, we went off to Japan and Hawaii. And it's been hard to reconnect with everybody. But it's good to be here in Virginia and be around guys that I know that we've all seen each other grow, and it's cool to be here now talking and trying to encourage each other as we're going through all these different, peaks and valleys of parenthood. So
where were you when y'all had Abe and John? We are in 2 different countries.
They're both island babies.
Island babies. There we go.
Abraham was born in Japan, and then John was born in
Now we are in Okinawa?
No, Yokosuka.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I remember first seeing that on the board when I was picking my shit. I was like, oh, Yokosuka. I was like, I don't think I want to go out to Yokosuka. I don't really know too much about that out there. But yeah, I mean, I know a whole lot more now. That's actually, after leaving the country and going to an island, like living the island life, like we loved it, bro.
Because you have your second.
So actually, we had them all here, but right before we went.
Okay.
So Avery was born, and then probably maybe we might have flew out, maybe he was like 3 months or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was wild. You think about putting him on a plane and everything. He actually did a pretty good job. If anybody was hurting, it was probably me, to be honest with you. Got my knees all stuck behind the airport chair, and I'm passing snacks and tablets and stuff like that. I was probably the one who was having the hardest time.
Oh, I know, yeah.
They did a good job coming back this way and stuff too. How was that starting to raise them in another country? I hear so many good things about Japan.
Yeah, Japan is great. I mean, we left when Abe was 6 months old, but I mean, we had everything we needed on the base. Everything is pretty easy when it comes to traveling. So you stroller down to the train station, get on the train, and it was easy. I mean, everyone's very considerate, and I think the Japanese people they do life in a very unique way that I really appreciate. So, but we left when he was 6 months old, and haven't been back since then, but we would love to take the boys back.
Bro, I want to go bad.
Japan is amazing. It is amazing.
If we can go back and do it again, go pick another country or something, it'll definitely be Japan. That's one I want to do before I get out if I can.
Oh, yeah.
I hear Hawaii and all that other stuff. But you talked about the way they do things. Have you picked up any of their traits? I always hear sometimes people become minimalist or super organized, or even in your parenting. Have you taken on any of that?
My wife is definitely more of the minimalist. She's the one throwing everything away. I mean,
for real?
Yeah, she keeps it. If we're not using it, it's getting thrown away. The kids' toys, my stuff.
Man, I'm like that.
Adopted stuff from the Japanese. Just try to be courteous like they are. They are so courteous. They're polite. But yeah, we weren't there long enough for me to pick up on all that, and I was deployed a lot. So, but no, I saw just the way they treat each other, so much respect.
Yeah,
and hardly any crime. I mean, you got little kids, 4 or
That's what I
5 years
love,
old,
bro.
getting on the train with their backpacks the size of them.
I-
And they are just they're
just
out,
moving.
they're out in the city.
They get mature, I think, a whole lot faster. And they
Mhm.
learn that a
Yeah.
whole lot faster.
And they're going
too.
to school like Saturday and Sunday. I mean, those
Oh,
kids
wow.
it's no joke.
I learned to kind of live a little bit like that with our kids while we're on Guam. It was just felt super safe. Like
Yeah.
even on base or off base, we were not locking the doors. Sometimes
Yeah.
like a neighbor was like, "Hey, can I borrow so and so?" Like, "Oh, we're not home, but the door's unlocked. Just go in." And the kids could just literally roam the streets. And at
Yeah.
first, like being here, you're like you get like you like you just used to being super safe all the time.
Lock every door.
Lock every
Triple
door.
check it.
You got to be watching them doing this or that.
Yeah.
But there, you kind of build this little community,
Yeah.
even inside of being in the military and stuff too.
I pulled into Guam once. I loved it. Yeah,
Yep,
we hiked around. We
bro.
drove around the island. The food was good.
We hiked so much. I used to
Yeah.
hike on Saipan, and I used to hike a little bit on Guam. My wife and the kids did a lot of the hiking
Okay.
on Guam, but that was definitely cool. My favorite was probably leaving work, stopping at the Coast Guard Annex, which was 30 seconds from the parking lot, grabbing mangoes, and then just going home, bro.
Oh,
Like, and
nice.
going home was 2 minutes. Like,
Oh,
from
that's
work.
good. That's
So that
real
was
good.
awesome. But so we talked about you didn't really take on a lot of their traits or anything like that. But what are your parenting traits right now? Like what do you dive into? What would you call yourself?
I definitely encourage my boys a lot. Probably maybe more than others. I don't know. But I really focus on encouraging them, focus on getting them into activities as
Okay.
much as possible, keeping them busy. Structure is something that I didn't necessarily have growing up. So providing structure for them, providing them kind of like, commander's intent.
Yeah, I got you.
They're
I
like,
got
just like,
you.
here's kind of what our day is going to look
Yeah.
like. Here's our focus. And, we write it all out kind of on the weekends when I can be there and be more present with them. And I'm just try to be very intentional with my time with them. Try to, like, when I get home, put my phone up. I'll put the, sound on just in case I get a call from
Yeah.
work or something. But for the most part, get home, put things away, and just do my best to focus on them. Because that's, work can get really hectic and bringing different emotions home from work. You want to kind of put things away so you can focus on
Yeah.
them. That's therapeutic it has its own stresses, but being just with them and just whatever they want to do, let's
just
do this.
that.
Let's go play with action figures.
Yeah.
Let's play with cars, or you want to go draw, you want to go outside.
Like, let's just do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of like my attitude during the week is just get home and just be with them. And then on the weekend, I try to provide a little bit more structure of here's what we're going to do. Here's
Yeah.
how we should do it.
And is your wife kind of the same? Is she a little bit different in that approach?
She's more structured during the week, and then the weekend she's kind of
like,
well, whatever you want to do. But she mostly will plan like the bigger events that we do. If there's
Okay.
going to be like, hey, we're going to go to the botanical gardens, or hey, we're going to go here. She's kind of she has the bigger picture laid out, and I'll
She's the
sprinkle
CEO,
in.
man. She's a commanding
Oh,
officer.
yeah.
They gotta have that.
That's the
that bigger
that's the
picture.
CNO, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We ringing bells when they come through the front door.
Exactly.
Man, they are in charge. So what I really want to talk about today, when I got back, we got to share a couple stories
Mhm.
between each other of just our wives and during their labor process and
Yeah.
going to the hospital. And I think that if you're a new father, it's something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for.
Yeah.
I didn't know what things to really bring to the hospital or what I should expect, that they would be asking me any type of questions.
Yeah.
And then actually during the labor process, I didn't know how I was going to be reacting.
Mhm.
You hear like the horror stories, you hear the good, you hear like, don't look this way and don't look that way during this. And so many people you can hear all these
Don't
different
pass out.
things. I didn't. Yeah, don't pass out, right? You can get the angry wife who's screaming and scratching your arms and all that stuff. And I think we had some similar, at least situations there that I do
Yep.
want to talk about a little bit. But before we dive into it a little bit too much, I just want you to tell me maybe a little bit more about the kids, man. Like I want to, how are they the same? How are they different? Tell me
Okay.
about Abe and John. Because I know right now, I saw a picture or a video of you like kind of coaching, doing basketball. Is that something you're doing? I know we play football. I never see you play basketball, so I don't know if you're good, but
I used to be good. I used to think I was good. Played basketball. Basketball was my first love. So getting Abe introduced to it was awesome. So how are they similar and different? Abe is very, I'd say, considerate. He is a lot more tame.
Okay.
He's not as aggressive. So from like a sports standpoint, I'm
I'm listening. I'm writing down the stats right now. I'm like, okay, so we're looking for this type of, okay, it's the combine right here.
Exactly. That's what we're doing right now. 3-star, 4-star. No, but Abe is a little more gentle and a very sweet boy, I would say. Catches on quick to things. And John is, since he's the little one, I think he just wants to show and prove himself. So he's definitely a little bit more of a bully. He kind of knocks things over. He doesn't really care about what anybody thinks. Abe actually cares. It sounds, seems like he's trying to like, okay, wait, is that okay? Is that not okay? John just does whatever he wants.
Do you think it's because he's 2?
He's 2.
Do you think it's a 2-year-old thing, a little brother thing, like you hear all the stories about the second born just being a wild child, or is it a COVID baby thing? Because my 2-year-old is the same way as a COVID baby. He started off just all about my wife. He didn't want my wife to go anywhere, and like now I've just seen this pivot, and he's just aggressive, and he like has no boundaries, no limits. He jumps off things and doesn't care. He just puts things in his mouth. Like even last night, my son got some new shoes, and the first thing he did, I don't know if you ever seen a video of Dennis Rodman like ripping open a box of shoes, but it's ridiculous. He just rips it open. I'm like, you could have just took the lid off, right? So he gets open the shoes, and the first thing he does is looks for the most dangerous thing. That's what kids do. God. They find the most dangerous thing, and they just gravitate toward it. So they grab their little packet. I don't know if you've ever seen the little packet with the seeds on it. Yeah. The one thing that says, do not ingest. Throws it right in his mouth. I'm talking. No. Thankfully, he didn't open it first. So we just you have a dog?
No, I don't, but I've had dogs.
You just got to put your whole hand in their mouth and just grab it out.
Pry it open.
Right, you just pry it open like you're like fighting a dinosaur or something like that. And we go get that bad boy out. But it's like, that's what they do. They look for, they find the knives in all the drawers or on the counter. They find the most dangerous things to put in their mouth. They jump off stuff. But my 5-year-old is a little bit more like, hey, it was like very chill, he's gentle, he's calm, he's got a few things that he likes to do, and we just do that. But how is it coaching them? Are you coaching both of them or
just Abe right now? And I'm more of like an assistant coach. I don't want to like be too involved because I want him to focus on the coach who's actually knows what he's doing, especially when it comes to like soccer. I never played soccer, but even with basketball, just have him focus on that's his coach. Dad is just helping. I'm trying to facilitate and encourage is more what I'm trying to do with the other kids. But no, it's fun. Coaching is not as fun as just being on the sideline, just cheering your kid on.
Yeah, just yelling and screaming.
When you're coaching, you're kind of looking at everybody and trying to help everybody make sure they're understanding certain concepts, making sure that, when they see other people doing certain things, they can also feel like, hey, they're getting to that level even if they're not there. So just helping where I can. Coaching is fun. It's cool to see all these little kids. I think sports is so important for raising kids when it comes to the team aspect. And then there's something also about individual sports, which I'm going to start getting my little one into certain things that are more like maybe track, maybe wrestling, where it's individual. So you learn, how it feels to lose, like it's on you. So there's certain things that I'm hoping to get my kids into and other stuff as well. Science stuff. I never was into that, but I want my kids to be better than me. So no, it's the coaching stuff is fun, keeping them busy. And then both boys are, I would say, pretty opposite, but I was saying some negative things about John. John is also very sweet. He's a very loving boy. He's he's a mama's boy.
I was gonna ask, is he mama's boy?
They're both mama's boys, man. That's why I need a little girl. I need a little girl so that she could be about me and not, I want some love too for my kids.
Yeah, and I feel like they both started out as like mama's boy, and I think it was just the milk, to be honest with you. Maybe it was just the milk. But Isaiah is still very much so like mama's boy. He's very affectionate and very physically like affectionate too. Yeah. I guess maybe it's one of his maybe 5 love languages if they have those for kids. And I didn't really grow up like I'm physical, like touch is my thing too. But I didn't really grow up getting that type of affection from my father. And it made it's not that it's like weird or anything like that. It's just I have found myself trying to I don't know, maybe redefine to my body and my mind like what's going on when he needs that. Like when he's coming up to me, I never want to be like, all right, like, just get super like tense, like, Or like, hey man, what are you doing? Like, don't touch me. He's 5 years old. He's not a grown. Yeah, like back up. Hey man, don't grab me like that. You know what I'm saying? But he's just 5 years old. So every once in a while, he wants to be a little bit closer to daddy on the couch. Or he wants me to pick him up the same way I'm still picking up the 2-year-old. And I'm gonna keep doing it while I have the strength. You know what I mean? And I don't just want to push him away. I want to embrace like whatever it is that he has and show him that it is okay to get that type of affection from your father. Now when we're talking about like different other type of love languages and his communication skills and stuff like that, he's probably a little bit more like me. And the 2-year-old, I'm just now starting to learn what it is that his thing is. Maybe it's physical touch too, but it's like violent physical touch.
He wants to fight.
He just wants to fight and brawl. But he's now made that pivot from mama's boy to like everything's daddy. And like, I love it, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
That's awesome.
Like, I feel so good sometimes. Maybe my wife feels bad about it, but like, I feel good when she goes in the house. It's like, oh, hey, mom, like, what's for dinner? Like, we got some snacks. I'm on popsicle. When I come in the house, it's like arms wide open, daddy, like daddy's arms.
Awesome.
I was like, yes, bro, this is what I've been waiting for. And I still think about like having a girl and stuff like that, but it is good to like get that feeling of appreciation a little bit.
Yeah, being able to take my oldest out, Abraham, and throw the football, dribble the basketball, even soccer. I mean, that's what you think about. At least that's what I dreamed about when I was going through college, is being able to start a family, being able to mentor and lead my kids one day. I mean, so to be able to do it now, it's full circle. Some weekends when I'm doing that, I'm just kind of looking out like, wow, I can't believe this is a reality. Like amongst all the, crap that could be going on at work and things like that, to be able to sit there and just throw a football with my kid, or to just be outside and just be with him.
Just be with him.
At the park, you're just sitting there. This is what life's about. This is really, this is the importance of it right here is, you have children and then you're present and you raise them, and you teach them. I mean, it's nothing else matters.
And they catch on to everything. Like, they really do pay attention. And it's kind of wild. Sometimes I'll try to teach them a certain virtue or whatever. And in a moment you'll forget, right? You'll get frustrated about something. And then they'll teach you what you just taught them. And it's like, what a perfect reflection of like what it's supposed to look like. You know what I mean? And it feels so good. But so let's talk about like the island babies. How were the hospitals? How did you prepare? Were they the same as like in the States? Like, what was that like for you?
I think it was
and your wife?
pretty both were at military hospitals. Yokosuka was great when it came to just providing information for first-time parents, going through that process, whether it's, what does it look like for breastfeeding? I went to the daddy boot camp that they had.
Boot camp. So I want a daddy boot camp. That sounds kind of cool.
Hey, we could do that. That'll be the next thing we do.
All right, smooth.
No, but so they had like a little daddy boot camp thing, go to learn how to change diapers, and if they're choking, kind of how do you do CPR or whatever the thing is. But so did all that stuff there. I thought everything was, being so close, living on Yokosuka Naval Base, like, everything was really easy. And then the same thing with being at Tripler in Hawaii. So the Army hospital over there, a lot of stuff. But I mean, we knew kind of what to expect going into that one. And that was a little bit more, we really knew what to expect because we were actually having a planned C-section versus Abraham was a emergency C-section. We didn't, there was no way to plan for that. And that was a crazy time. That's the thing that's interesting is, you find somebody, you get married, and then you see these love stories, and you think, oh, like, you just have a baby. Like, it's just
that's what they say.
It's just easy.
Was they first come marriage, then comes the baby and all the other stuff. They don't tell you the stuff in the middle.
No, I think everyone has a birthing story, and if you don't, like me, everyone does. Some people more
it's kind of hard not
more
to.
traumatic than others, but it is. There, you just never know with that stuff. You have no idea what's going to happen in there. Everything could be going right, and then something changes in the blink of an eye. Your wife gets a fever, and that now the pregnancy it's an emergency now. It's an emergency situation. They've got to switch from natural birth to C-section, and then just watching kind of the emotions on my wife's face, the doctors, the nurses. And then when we were in Japan, we were 12, 15 hours. I don't even remember. Our time zone was way off from, our parents and stuff like that.
I could even from Guam, like it was Guam not too. The same.
Yeah. So we had our parents on like FaceTime the whole time that she's trying to, conceive naturally. And, we're going through, we were there for, I can't even remember how long, but it was maybe 8 or more hours of just like pushing and trying and all the whole process. I mean, we switched from one nurse to the next because we had been with this nurse since she started, and then I'm bringing in the new one, and then we got a new head surgeon or something like that that's going to come in and now evaluate the situation. So it's good hospitals. They did what they could. They got a healthy baby, or I got a healthy firstborn, a healthy secondborn, and wife made it through both. But both of those situations, the first one very traumatic, and the second one also traumatic. So it
got kind of rough.
You never know, man. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, even with I could say from our first, we had a Zai like in the middle of a snowstorm. Like he was already 3 days late. Like we were thinking, like, okay, based on the due date, we're good to go. We're not going to have any snow, no ice. And of course, every child wants to have their own story. So he waits for the snowstorm to come. Yeah. Luckily, mom and baby brother got a chance to come. My brother-in-law, her baby brother got a chance to come. So we're there. We're just trying to figure out, like, go on Pinterest, like find what can get this baby here faster. So everybody's heard all the wives' tales and everything. So first thing we do, boom, we go for Mexican food. Like kind of find the spiciest thing that we could get. And my wife, she could deal with spicy because, I eat African food and she tries it sometimes and stuff too. But we're like, okay, let's get something spicy. Next thing we get back, so nothing's happening. Yeah. She already had an appointment the day before. They said, okay, you're not dilated enough. You just wait and tell me when you're ready to come back. It started getting late at night. At this point, it's like, I don't even know what time it is. But it was getting late. So started playing Monopoly. She grabs the aerobic ball. That was another way they said they were supposed to come. We're trying everything. On the ball. Man, that ball worked. We get into the bed, and she was like, babe, we got to go. So I'm hearing, that's like from every movie. Usually it's, actually from the movie, it's the water always breaks.
The water breaks.
That's not the case this time. The water did not break. All I hear is, babe, we got to go. She was kind of doing this groaning thing. It was like, scare me, call mom, we dip out. Yeah. So we head to the hospital. And man, things did not move as fast as I expected them to. Yeah. Everybody around me, I feel like, was moving super fast. There were so many people. They were giving her so much information at one time. And I feel like I was supposed to take in some of that. But I just feel like I wasn't. It's like you were kind of in the zone and you don't really know what's going on. Yeah. They're more worried about mom, and they're kind of, I guess, making sure dad's there in case she's like incoherent for some of it. But that part becomes hard because it's so much stuff and it's like your first time, right? Yeah. You're already lugging around all these bags. You got to remember to text mom and then sister and then text the best friend. Yeah, you got to remember all these people to text and stuff like that. That part's getting hard, right? And you're like hearing epidural, you're hearing like all these other big words. Yep. And then you get the doctor. You could tell who the doctor is, right? Because the nurse, they always come in, hi, Dad, how are you? And then the doctor is the one who comes in and they actually sit down and they actually talk. Yeah. So we were getting that. And you talked about them switching because we actually were in labor with the Zai for like 23 hours. It was, we were there for a long time. Wow. And I remember a little bit more than halfway through, they switched the doctors and the nurses. And when they switched doctors, bro, this lady came in about 6'4".
Oh man,
maybe 200 and maybe about 200. She looked like you walking in there with gloves on. So you think you're making progress and you got like dilation and all this other stuff. And then you get this like Spartan who walks in the room and she's like, yeah, no, I'm not seeing 6 inches. I'm getting like 4. You're just like, oh my God, we just backtrack so much. Yeah. And I'm already scared because the lady is huge in there. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I feel like I got to protect my wife, but like she's already in pain and like I'm mentally just discombobulated. Yep. And she started having a fever and the baby's heart rate started to go up. And I'm just asking like, what does that mean for us? And I'm starting to get a little bit more fearful as things start to change. And then next thing you know, like they just run into the room and they're like, we need to go to emergency section and like we need to do it now. Yeah. So I'm throwing everything on and like it goes from you know, in football, we know how to just run into an audible. You know what's coming next.
Yeah.
It's different courses of action. At this point, I feel like I'm on the outside. So I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And my wife, I could just see, like, if you know my wife, she's pretty stern, right? Like, this is one of the reasons, like, why I'm married. She don't take no crap.
No, she doesn't.
She raised in Chicago, Georgia, kind of made it the rest of the way. Like, she's just like that.
Yeah.
But in this state, if she's in the hospital, I just see this, you know, this soft face and just, you know, wanting and needing me to kind of be there to protect her.
Yeah.
And I almost felt a little bit out of control when so many things were happening. It was like, I got to put everything in God's hands. So as we're running out, you know, you got the little footy shoes on and sprinting through. Yeah, you're getting y'all geared up, going from one space into another, going straight to the OR. And I remember she was just kind of like shivering. And I think just her body was just feeling cold and stuff. And I didn't know what any of this stuff meant, but like one step after the other, it came fast. And then you just hear a crying baby. And you're just like, wow, like, we really just did that. But it's not over, because now you got mom and you got baby. The one person that I was in love with and I cared all about has now not split into, but now I have love and care for this person. I have love and care for this person. Now where do I go? And they're like, she's like, go with the baby. And I'm like, wow, okay. So now I gotta leave my wife here, go with the baby to make sure they're okay. But let's get into your birth story. I know that was kind of a lot, but
no, that's very similar to what happened with Ari and I. I can't remember all the details, but you don't really know when you're supposed to go in. You hit the 40-week mark, and if you haven't had enough contractions, they're not close enough, and your water hasn't broken, and you don't even really know what your water breaking looks like. Or it doesn't look like it. So we didn't really know. We went down to Yokosuka Naval Hospital, I want to say 2 or 3 times, like, hey, we think it's happening. Yeah, and we didn't have a car, so we're walking. So that was also helpful. I mean, it's not half a mile from where our house was, but like, you know, we walk over there and they're like, oh no, not yet. Go back home. And the next day we do the same thing. And then finally, you know, she's not feeling good. And her water had broke, I want to say the previous, that night, but we didn't know. And then we went in. So there was probably like an 8-hour gap of like her water did break. So we go in, talk to them. They're like, yeah, we're going to keep you here for a little while. So they keep us there for a little while. And then she starts, I forget what she was taking or what the sequence was, but then they basically like kept her, and we started kind of the process of labor. And I want to say that went like, I don't know, 8 hours or so. And then we just kind of kept going through this, and she's pushing, she's doing all this stuff and all these different positions to get the baby's head to be looking up versus looking to the side versus looking down. And we had all these nurses in, and, you know, I'm there with her doing the best, kind of like you, man, not really knowing what to do, knowing that I'm kind of in control of communicating with family. Right. I'm in Japan, so I'm trying to FaceTime people in and trying to make her feel as comfortable as possible. We got the music playing, we got the Bosu ball, whatever. Just to kind of like, you know, we got the Christian music going, because that's kind of us right there, and just trying to, you know, help center us, as this is a very stressful time. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, and just as the process kind of continued to play out, and we got changeover from different nurses to a different doctor, Abraham's head was not rotating and looking up like they had wanted. She had dilated to the 10 centimeters or whatever it's supposed to be, and then she got a fever, and that's when the doctor was like, "Hey, we have to do an emergency C-section." That's absolutely not what my wife wanted. We had talked about. We watched plenty of different birthing videos in the lead up of like, okay, the baby comes out and it goes right on the chest. And
you do the sort of skin to skin.
And then, automatically starts to breastfeed. And even the breastfeeding doesn't work the way people, portray it actually working. But so once we heard emergency C-section, I mean, that was when kind of our family went into prayer mode for us, because we didn't know what that was going to lead to or what that would look like. Yeah, and then you go in and they take her in first, and then I get all geared up and going at the head of the bed, and my wife also kind of like moaning, groaning, and going through these different feelings because the epidural's wearing off at this time.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm sitting at the head of the bed. I'm hearing that she's in pain, and you're helpless. You can't do anything. All you can do is kind of put your hand on her shoulder, put your head by her head, and just whisper, I'm here for you. I love you. I'm here for you. That's all you can do. And I remember, the pain that she was going through as they started to cut into her stomach, and when she was responding with pain, they were like, okay, hey, I think they gave her.
Yeah, because she's not really supposed to feel anything.
No, you're not supposed to feel anything. So the epidural had wore off so much that I think they gave her like ketamine or just a whole host of like.
It's like, we got to give her something now fast.
Yeah, and she ended up just basically going to sleep.
Wow.
And Abraham, cut open. There's, they pull out Abraham, and he's you hear the cry.
Mm-hmm.
And as a father, new fathers or soon to be fathers, that cry, if it doesn't make you cry, you're not human, man. I don't know what that cry, and the whole process leading up to that. I mean, hours and hours and hours and hours. And then I get emotional. My wife is knocked out.
Yeah.
So, and she was knocked out for probably 4 hours.
Wow.
So when they said, "Hey Dad, come over here, hold your baby," I was like, "No, I'm not going to hold him. Like, I love him. I'm so happy he's here, but like, I want my wife to hold him."
Right.
And so I cut his umbilical cord and, took a picture with him while the nurse held him, but I never held him. And then I left. I find out like an hour later that they had sutured up her stomach incorrectly, so they had to like open her back
up. They had
up.
to reopen her back up.
Yeah, so she lost about 20% of her blood.
Wow.
And they almost needed
I'm no doctor, but that doesn't sound like a little bit.
Yeah, so they were talking about giving her a blood transfusion. They didn't. But when she came to, it's like 4 hours later.
Wow.
They brought Abraham in, and she was out with all those drugs that she didn't even know like where she was. She like, wow, where am I? Who is this? So really hard, but she ended up coming to, and it was great. She got to hold him. So she, I didn't feel like
the pieces were coming together, at least from what you envisioned.
Exactly. So it started to get better and everything like that. But and she felt a lot better. But that was difficult. That was a difficult time. And
And like we said, like everybody's story is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like you have different birth stories. It's just you got to know that it's not always like pretty and colorful and cut and dry and super easy. You can read as much articles and many as magazines as you want to. You just got to be a little bit prepared. And I think going into that, I probably would have read a little bit more or maybe spoke to more fathers about it, because during that time, like the women, they share like their birth stories all the time.
Yeah.
And as I hear sometimes my wife speaking to maybe some of her little sisters or mentees or whatever you want to call them, and I'm like, why are you scaring these ladies? Like, they're never going to have kids if they hear this stuff. Like, don't tell them. But because we don't talk about it as much either, we think it's like weird, icky or whatever, we go in there like wide eye, like what? Okay, so what's about to happen? And we just react.
Yeah.
Thankfully, like I think that we're pretty level-headed and kind of know how to react to certain situations. Going through school, that's kind of what it really taught us how to do.
Yeah.
But not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
So if you see yourself, like you see some of the videos where the guys just completely pass out, because like maybe they weren't through any type of stress training like that. You know what I mean? And that's not a place you want to be when your wife really needs you, or your significant other, or whoever might be in that position. You don't really want to be in that space. So I think that it's important that we talk about it a little bit more. Now, what's John's birth story somewhat similar?
It was different in the fact that, again, a traumatic situation occurred, but it was afterwards. So we had this planned C-section. My wife did want to have a VBAC, but based on kind of how they evaluated her situation in Japan, the doctors in Hawaii were not comfortable. They would have supported her, but they were saying, hey, something along the lines of like a 30% chance you would have a successful VBAC.
Absolutely. We went
so
through
they gave us some numbers that we weren't comfortable enough with, and we talked to more people, and oddly enough, our neighbor across the street where we were living on base turned out to be her doctor during the process of like
that's pretty cool,
helping her out after the traumatic situation. But no, we had a planned C-section. It was great. It was smooth. 8 o'clock in the morning, we get there.
Yeah.
I mean, everything works out well. John comes out. My wife is alert. She's drugged enough to where like her lower half, or at least from her stomach down, is numb, but she was alert. They brought the baby over. I held the baby. It was beautiful.
A lot more planned than the first one, at least.
Yeah, there was not a lot of stress with it. We were so happy. And then, John was able to latch on and breastfeed immediately, which is not something Abraham was able to do ever. So it was beautiful. We were like, oh man, praise God, like this is great. But it was also during COVID, so like her mom is watching our oldest at the house, and it's just me there. And even then, there was all these like, do you have your vaccine? Do you have all this stuff in Hawaii that was just, it was a nightmare.
Super extra, yeah.
Very extra. So all that is fine until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So 8 o'clock, I had the baby. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I left to go check on Abe and check on her mom. And then I get a phone call like, hey, I'm not feeling well. I feel sick. And then I I get back to the hospital and she had thrown up.
Wow.
She was in and out of like consciousness, and the doctors are coming in like, hey, I think it was her blood pressure was super low or something. There was some numbers that were not, some of her, I don't know what the numbers were, but they weren't where they were supposed to be. And next thing I know, they come in and they start doing different tests, and they're like, hey, we think she has fluid in her abdomen. I'm like, fluid? What do you mean? Like, they're like, we think it's blood. I was like, do you know if it's blood?
Yeah,
like, oh, hold on. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we think, we're pretty confident that this is blood. And I'm like, okay, what does all this mean? We need to open her back up right now. Like, what do you mean you need to open her back up? And
they're talking directly to you at this point, or they're talking kind of both.
They're talking to both of us because she's in and out.
Wow.
She's in and out of consciousness. Her she said before she kind of was going in and out of consciousness that her shoulder, she was having pain in there, which I guess is a sign too that there's blood in your abdomen.
Oh, I would have never known
something like that. So they ended up bringing in the head surgeon. They're like, hey, we have to go in now, because I was basically like, hey, I need to understand what's going on.
Yeah, like talk to me. Don't just use these codes.
We got this baby over here, and you're now saying that you can't do anything else. That there's not, like, you're gonna go cut her back open. She was just cut into earlier in the day. Like, no, we have to act quickly. We have to act swift. And I was okay. I need to know more information because I got family I need to tell.
Yeah.
And then they just say, like, basically, like, hey, we need to take her now.
So at this point, it's almost like it's not even in your hands. Like they're not really asking you any questions. It's like, I'm telling you what I'm gonna do without really even telling you what I gotta do, because this needs to happen fast.
And what they had described was that the sutures of the C-section could have been like a leaking faucet. The blood could still be coming out, I guess. Okay. I'm saying all this wrong, but
we're not the medical professionals.
What I remember is, it's like she could have just basically a leak from the suture into her abdomen, and the more blood that accumulates, the higher risk for like heart attack or stroke or something like that. So they ended up taking her in, and I am with a 8-9 hour old baby, and I'm just me and him. The nurse was coming in. Thankfully, they grabbed the chaplain because I was freaking out. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if they were going to have to take her uterus out or what they were going to have to do or how they were going to stop this. And next thing I know, I think they took her in around like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. I'm with the baby. And then I find out after that she had a successful surgery. The neighbor across the street was there for all of it.
Oh, man.
Saved her uterus.
Awesome.
She had a blood transfusion because she lost 25% of her blood. So they said 2 liters. So like, you get pizza and you get 2 liters. So she had 2 liters of blood was in her abdomen.
And doctor fluid.
Yeah.
You're like, that's the life juice you got in this 2-liter bottle right here.
Yeah, man.
You're just calling it fluid. That's a lot, man.
So they ended up saving her uterus. They sutured her back up. She was in, I think she was in the intensive care unit for until, I want to say she came back at like 5 a.m.
Wow.
They wheeled her back in, and there I was with the baby, spent that whole night with John. Alone. That was actually it was him and I, and the chaplain came in. Like I said, we talked and we prayed, and just to kind of center me, because I was becoming a mess. I was sitting there with John, just not understanding what was happening. Like, why is this happening? I thought like the planned C-section. Like,
right. I thought everything was going smoothly. Yeah. So where was Abe at this time?
Abe's with grandma.
Okay, so Abe's with grandma. How did that evening go? Like with you and just the baby? Like, did you have to feed the baby at any point in time?
Yeah, so he was breastfeeding super well, and then now I had to switch to formula. So we're switching to formula, and he's not really taking it. Super fussy, and again, that whole day, I mean, a lot of emotions going on. So I was just there with John as much as I could be, and then talking to family, talking to her mom. We're praying on the phone. That was a rough night. I'm glad, very, very grateful that she came back and everything was intact. Because that was the fear too, is when they did take her away, they were like, hey, we're likely going to have to take her uterus. We're just going to tell you that right now. Like, it's a high likelihood we're going to take it. And I was like, so we're not going to have any more kids. She's like, if it's between her and the uterus, we're going to just take the uterus. Thankfully, they were able to keep her uterus and keep her. So,
you are the man. I don't even know where I would be. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to even talk to anybody during that time. So, like, if nobody told you did a good job, I mean, of course I wasn't there, but you did a freaking good job. as a father, just getting in there, kind of reacting to whatever was happening in the environment and situation. And your wife's a freaking gangster.
She is. Yeah.
Our
Oh,
wives,
yeah.
they are some gangsters.
They are.
just go through some stuff. Now, looking back at both of the births, what would you do differently, if anything? What would you maybe want to know more? Just looking back at both those.
Yeah, I think I could have probably read up more, but even then, it's a fluid and dynamic situation. Some people, they go in, they push, baby comes out, and then there's not a lot, but I probably just continue to be encouraging, and then just more knowledge on the situation as like a new father. I would say just read up on it, talk to people, try to get your an understanding of what's about to happen, and understand too that like it may not go as planned, and it may go this way, it may go that way, and you just have to be as supportive as you can and keep your composure, and then also keep family abreast of what's going on. But like they're gonna ask a lot of questions, they're gonna call, they're gonna text, and you guys let them know, hey, I don't know the answer right now. Or, hey, this is the status. And just keep that probably tight, not too many people, but just the most important family members to be in on that. I don't know what I would do differently, but just be very encouraging, be very loving and sensitive to what they're going through, because their bodies are going through a lot.
Yeah, and you gotta think about too, like mentally, like they're not always there, and they're allowed to be fearful of the moment, and they're sometimes they're using different medicines and stuff like that may encumber what they're thinking about. So I like what you talked about. You guys had a plan before, like you guys talked about what it is that you wanted to do. And I think in the second birth with Avery, it was a little bit more of like, okay, now I know what it looks like to kind of go through this thing. And I was a little bit more prepared. And it was a little bit smoother. Like you said, we actually did a VBAC, and it was very hard to even get a doctor to do that. It was something that she was very serious about, something she really wanted to do, but they gave us that 30%, and we're like, okay, so now what does that mean for us? Like, can we do this? And I'm freaking out a little bit, because I'm like, what if things go wrong? But things went smoothly. But what the difference was, this time I was able to advocate for my wife a little bit more on the things that she wanted to do. And I got a chance to kind of really know her body a little bit more. She knew her body a little bit more about, how things felt. And when a nurse or a doctor comes in and they're just kind of telling you something, and you know that you have the option of doing something else, now you can advocate for your wife a little bit more. It's like, hey, well, we talked about this at another appointment. Is this still an option for us? Or actually, she feels good. She wants to see how much longer she can wait before getting the epidural. Just having those conversations. And I'm glad we had those, because otherwise I just would have been, sitting in the back seat, just kind of waiting. Now, I can say, having 4 kids now, right? Going from 1 and 2. When I went in for the third, bro, I was chilling, dog. I'm talking flip-flops on, kick back. I was dapping up the doctors and stuff. And you like really been there like a couple times when as soon as you get in, you go, all right, y'all good? I'm gonna go to sleep, because you're gonna be up for a while. And you're gonna need
comfy. Bring a pillow.
Bring a pillow, man. You're gonna need to bring a comfort, like a little blanket or something like that. You need to get chill. You know what I'm saying? I got my Navy football hoodie on.
There you go.
Got me a couple snacks that I can sneak my wife, because they're not gonna let her eat or drink and stuff like that. Hey, babe, just suck on the candy and then spit it out. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta. And I got her nice cup, because they like ice sometimes. My wife was. She just like to munch on ice or whatever. That was her thing. Ice chips, whatever you want to call it. But man, that third pregnancy, we were having both the boys, I felt good in there, man. I was watching an old Notre Dame Navy football game on TV and stuff. Man, I felt extremely chill.
Veteran when it comes to
bro, it looked completely different. If you could record what the first one looked like versus the second one, like the first one looked like you just took a deer and just tossed them into like a bunch of different, like a lion pack. Is it called a lion pack? I don't even know. Just a bunch of pack of lions. And the deer just trying to figure out where to go, and I'm sprinting and I'm getting away, and that's what I was more so like. That second time, I came in like the third time I came in like a veteran quarterback, dog.
There you go.
Like, My wife knew what to do. She was more like the quarterback, actually. I was more like the head coach. Well, I didn't actually do any coaching or anything like that. I just kind of told everybody what to do and manage and bought stuff. And it was beautiful to see. She was able to tell this nurse, like, hey, yeah, I do this. Yeah, I'm feeling like that. Hey, I want to go ahead and move on to this, this position, or I want to go ahead and do that. Yeah. So I felt good seeing her kind of move around everybody. And
that's awesome.
Then getting to that next spot where they're like, hey, Dad, we're ready. I'm like, all right, cool, game time. You know what I'm saying? Throw my hoodie out and we just move on and just kind of do whatever we got to do. And babies are coming out, boom, boom, like right after the other. And I don't know if I can go back and do it again just because the aftermath, when I say the aftermath, I'm talking about after the babies, like the sleep deprivation. And so we're going to have a whole nother conversation, whole nother podcast on that. But that's the part that's actually harder to me. When they get to talking in the 2-year-old phase, that's extremely fun for me. The sleep deprivation and the waking up in the middle of the night with this old football body, and I'm literally look like Thriller. Like my body's like, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. My wife's like, get up. I'm like, oh. She's like, go get the babies. And I like I gotta pop my shoulder in place and then my knees pop. I literally look like a zombie walking from one room to the other trying to get to the babies. My entire top floor sounds like a rainforest because there's these like sound machines everywhere. It's a complete tundra. I can't see, and like the blinds won't open. It's just wild. I don't know which baby to grab. I don't know who's crying. We'll have a whole nother conversation about that. But what I want to do is thank you for opening up about just everything, man.
Yeah,
I know sometimes we don't always talk about it. I want to thank you for being here and just being vulnerable with me. I talked to you a little bit before about how therapeutic this journey and these podcasts have become for me. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm glad other people get to sit in and listen to this.
Yeah, this is good, man.
But if you want to, maybe take just 1 or 2 minutes in closing and just kind of talk to maybe some of the new fathers or anybody about what you feel like they should do, how they could prepare either for that situation or just being a father or just how fun it is. I'll just give it to you, man.
Now being a father is great. It has its ups and downs. I think it's amazing though, like what I said earlier, is just being able to know kind of what's really important in life and not getting bogged down by all the minutia. But when you're preparing to have a baby, and then you guys do have a baby, and then you have the opportunity to go through those phases and to help the sleep deprivation, to be able to get up and burp your baby, feed your baby, and then to go through and be able to throw the football with your kid and start to teach them about life and to teach them about sports and to teach them how to be a good person. I mean, all those different phases, they're hard in and of itself. But that's really what life boils down to. And just take it in stride, own it. Like it's your responsibility, and no one's going to do it for you. And you got to be there for your family. You got to be there for your wife. You got to be there for your kids. And then take time for yourself when you can. But it's amazing if you're getting ready, you're thinking about doing it. You don't need to think twice.
Yeah.
You want to have a baby, go have a baby.
Go have a baby.
And then do your duties and be loving, be caring, be honest, be humble, and reach out to people like Meyer. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to any dad and we'll do our best to walk with you. But it is hard. It is the hardest thing that you will do. This is harder than any physics test you ever took at the academy. This is harder than any play, any practice you've ever had, because it's a lot. But it's beautiful. This is life, man. Like, it's crazy.
That's what it's all about, man.
It's crazy.
Thank you again, man. I love you.
Man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.